Okay, so in this video we're now looking at simplifying algebraic expressions and really just looking at some fundamental notation of algebra, and it's a really important video for getting onto harder topics in algebra, so I would definitely grab a notepad and make some notes here, and without further ado, let's begin. So if I give you this, right, 5 and 5 and 5, of course it's equal to 15, but I'm interested here and looking at writing this in a different way. Well, we can write this as 3 lots of 5. Okay, because multiplication is repeated addition. You can see we've got 3, 1, 2, 3, lots of 5. 3 times 5 is 15. It's the same thing as 5 and 5 and 5. And this is a very useful idea to consider this over here. So now instead of using a specific number, I'm using a variable b. Okay, and that variable could be anything. It could be 2, it could be a million, it could be negative 2.4. Right, I'm just using some variables here. b plus b plus b. But in the same way as we wrote this over here is 3 times 5, I've now got 3, 1, 2, 3, lots of b, so 3 times b. This and this mean the same thing. And we saw previously that if you're timesing an algebra, right, 3 times b is the same thing as 3b. Okay, I've just simplified it to this. It's a much better way of writing it. And importantly, right, the number in algebra comes before the letter. Okay, you could write it as b3, it looks really clumsy. It's always the number and then the letter. Okay, so if I gave you now a times b with two different variables, well, again, we're timesing, you can simplify this and write it as ab. But also, you could write it if you wanted to as ba. And the reason is, right here, multiplication is commutative. So for example, if the value of a here was equal to, let's say, 3, and the value of b was equal to 5, so a would be 3, b is 5, 3 times 5. If I just switch the a and the b around to go b times a, so now it would be 5 times a, which is 3, well, 3 times 5 and 5 times 3, they're both equal to 15. Okay, 15 is equal to 15. So we say that multiplication is commutative. Okay, e.g. 3 times 5 and 5 times 3, 15, they mean the same thing. No matter which way around a and b go, you get the same answer. So that's a really important idea in algebra. Okay, but again, right, ab is a better way of writing it because alphabetical order than ba, but they both mean the same thing. Now, what about this below? We've got b times b. If I gave you 5 times 5, well, you might be thinking, well, 5 times 5 is 25, but importantly, right, in terms of indices, we can write this as 5 to the power of 2, or 5 squared. So similarly, we can write b times b as b to the power of 2, or b squared. So now, something a bit more complex. If we have 3 times b times 5 times a times b, well, if we look at the number parts first of all, or if we put it in order, so we've got 3, and we're timesing it by 5, so 3 times 5 times a times b, and then times b again. Okay, well, 3 times 5 is 15. We're then timesing that by a singular a, so timesing it by a. We're then timesing it by b times b, and b times b was b squared. And we know in algebra, if you're timesing this all together, you can group it all together to give you 15ab squared. And again, the number first, and then alphabetical order, a, and then b squared. So I would make some notes on this if you need to, some really important ideas with algebraic notation here. Okay, so that's algebra and multiplication. Now, algebra and division, how do we write some things? So 12 divided by 3, again, I'm not interested in the fact is equal to 4. I'm interested here in the fact we can write this as 12. This means the same thing. This means 12 divided by 3. It means the same thing as this above here. It's just a better way of writing it in algebra, because now, if I gave you this, 12 divided by b, we can write this as 12 over, not a, it should be b. They mean exactly the same thing. 12 divided by b. So if I gave you this, a divided by b, we can write this as a over b. Last thing, note, a divided by b and b divided by a, these are not the same thing. So these are not commutative. For example, if a was equal to 12 and b was equal to 3, well, 12 divided by 3, this here is equal to 4. 12 divided by 3 is 4. If I switch the a to the bottom and the b to the top, which means the 12 now on the bottom, the 3 on the top, 3 divided by 12, this is equal to 0.25, or a quarter. It's the same thing as a quarter. And you can see that 4 is not the same thing. 4 is not equal to a quarter. Therefore, division in algebra, or just division, is not commutative. Okay, the order of which you do things does matter, which is not the same as multiplication. Okay, that's really, really important. Okay, so now, I've got 12 questions here. If you want to, you can pause the video and give those a go yourself. You can simplify these expressions. If you get stuck, you can work through it with me, and then you can mark your work. Okay, so question 1. Simplify 5 times y. We can simply write this. You're timesing it, you just group it together to give you 5y. That's it. Question 2, c times d. We can write it. You're timesing again, you just group it together, cd. 3, 8 divided by d. We write this as 8 over d. Okay, these mean the same thing. It's just a better way, a more simplified way of writing it. Question 4, or 2 times 3 is 6. You're then timesing it by x, so you group it all together to give you 6x. Okay, so 6x. Question 5, k divided by 2. We just write it as k over 2. Question 6, x divided by y. We write it as x over y. Question 7, k times k. As we saw previously, you're timesing the same variable. Okay, so it's going to be k to the power of 2, k squared. Question 8, we've got k times 4. Well, k times k was k squared. Timesing it by 4, so k squared times by 4. Okay, but in algebra, the number comes first. So 4 times k squared, which is the same thing as 4k squared. You group it all together, 4k squared. Question 9, we've got 2 times 10. The number part, first of all, 2 times 10 is 20. Timesing it by c, so c, timesing it by d, 20 cd. There we go. Question 10. A times A is A squared. You're timesing that by B times B. B times B is B squared. So A squared, B squared. If you want to be really fancy here, and this is probably a bit advanced perhaps for the time being, this also is the same thing as writing it's A times B all squared. It means the same thing as this. Okay, but this is absolutely fine for the time being. 11. We've got 2 times 4. Number part always comes first, which is 8. You've then got x times x, which is x squared, timesing it by y, so you've got y on the end. 8x squared y. Extension, okay? Nothing that we can't handle, I don't think. So again, number part first, we've got at 4, we're timesing it by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. You've got a 1x, you've got 2 x's, you've got 3 x's. So x times x times x, you'd write as x to the power of 3. That means you're timesing x by itself 1, 2, 3 times. You've then got 1y, timesing it by y again, which we know is going to be y to the power of 2. And that is it. Okay, so that's a really important video on an introduction to simplifying algebraic expressions and really looking at how you write algebraic notation. So hopefully it was useful, and thank you for watching.